Brazil. Scandinavian taxes. African public services. This phrase sums up a brutal paradox. We pay as if we live in Norway, but we receive services as if we're in a failed state. The average Brazilian works nearly 5 months of the year just to sustain the public machine, a machine that is heavy, slow, expensive, and often incompetent. Sky-high taxes, cascading fees, suffocating bureaucracy. All of this is sold under the promise of a modern, fair, and efficient country. But when the citizen looks around, what do they see? Hospitals that are overcrowded, falling apart, without doctors, without medicine. Schools that look more like human warehouses, with no structure, no safety, no results. Public security in a state of collapse, with organized crime advancing faster than the government. Roads and transport systems of an abandoned country, where every pothole is a reminder that the money simply vanished. Basic sanitation that still hasn't reached 100 million people in the 21st century. Services that don't serve a government that doesn't govern it. It's an impossible equation. An expensive state plus terrible services plus chronic corruption equals permanent indignation. While Nordic countries give back every cent they collect in quality of life, Brazil produces a chasm. Taxes of a rich country, returns of a poor country, efficiency of a makeshift country, and the people are trapped in a cruel gear system. Pay a lot, receive little. Demand answers, and get none. Brazil isn't breaking because it lacks money. Brazil is breaking because it lacks management, lacks priority, and lacks shame. Let's be more direct. Brazil, Scandinavian taxes, African public services, and a political elite living like pharaohs. The Brazilian citizen is robbed twice, by the criminals on the street, and by the state, legalized wearing suits and ties, smiling as it puts its hand in your pocket. We pay taxes as if we lived in Oslo, and we get services as if we were in a country the government itself has left to fend for itself. The money disappears down an infinite drain of useless bureaucracy, political patronage, ghost jobs, embezzlement, perks, secret funds, secret budgets, and the unpayable privileges of those who are supposed to serve but only serve themselves. Meanwhile, the average citizen faces hospitals that look like war zones with people agonizing in the hallways. Schools that don't educate but just push students along. A failed public security system where the criminal gives the orders and the state obeys. Infrastructure that's a work of fiction, where every destroyed road is proof of institutionalized theft. This is Brazil's perverse model. The state charges like a king and delivers like a bandit. And when the people complain, they get a speech. When they question, they get a threat. When they demand, they get mocked. When they work, they get more taxes. This country isn't poor. This country is being plundered, and the plunder is daily, shameless, and systematic. How long will Brazilians sustain a public machine that consumes everything and gives back nothing? How long will we accept being treated like tax slaves? How long will this theater of incompetence, impunity, and corruption continue. Brazil is not a country in crisis, it is a country held hostage. Let's go even further. Brazil isn't just poorly managed. Brazil is being exploited, systematically, cynically, deliberately. The citizen works, sweats, toils, fights, and the government acts like a giant parasite hanging on the nation's neck, draining every cent, every drop of energy, every last shred of hope. We pay like a first world country. We live like a country that never left the age of improvisation. And the official excuse, always the same: there's a lack of funds. That's a lie. What's lacking is shame, management, and character. While Brazilians face hospitals that resemble mass graves where you die waiting for care. Schools that produce nothing because they've become warehouses of state neglect. Public security that has dissolved, where crime is more organized than the government itself. Sanitation that is a joke, with millions living without treated water. Roads that destroy cars and lives, but fatten the contracts of inefficient construction companies. On the other side of the wall, the political caste lives in a parallel universe. Absurd salaries, absurd privileges, pensions fit for a king. We receive as if we're in its darkest basement. Every year, more taxes. Every year, less country. Hospitals are collapsing. Schools have become social ruins. Public security no longer exists, solely dominated territory. Sanitation seems centuries old. Roads are open wounds on the national territory. And behind it all, a shielded political caste, isolated, living in palaces, occupying a Brazil where reality doesn't enter. An artificial, air-conditioned Brazil, full of privileges, where none of them feel the pain they inflict on the rest of the nation. The collapse is not a theory. It is in progress. Every public service that fails, every institution that weakens, every scandal that is covered up, every tax abuse, is another brick pulled from the country's foundation, and the people, exhausted, in debt, disinformed, thrown from one side to the other like pawns in a game that never favors them. It's not a lack of wealth. It's not a lack of potential. It is continuous, systematic, relentless extraction carried out by a public machine that consumes everything and gives back nothing. If nothing changes, Brazil is heading towards a point of no return. The moment when the state loses its ability to pretend it works, and society loses its ability to sustain the state. The fall won't be sudden. It will be silent, gradual, inevitably like a giant tree that rots from the inside until it simply topples over. This is the final warning. Either Brazil wakes up, or Brazil falls apart. There's a smell of decay in the air. A heavy, ancient smell that drifts through hospitals, government offices, police stations, dark roads, and forgotten neighborhoods. It's the smell of a country that is disintegrating in slow motion. Brazil is not in crisis. Brazil is exhaling its last warnings. Every tax is a forced transfusion to keep a state standing that no longer lives it, just vegetates, bloated, parasitic, sucking what's left of society. The state apparatus has become a carcass, a broken but hungry machine that demands more and more from the people, even without being able to give anything back. Public services haven't failed. They have collapsed and we keep pretending they haven't. Hospitals are waiting rooms for those life has almost abandoned. They don't save, they just prolong the suffering. Schools are factories of an incapable future, creating entire generations doomed to economic servitude and the illusion of a citizenship that never existed.